Your kid is 8 years old. He needs a shot every day to stay alive. Without it, he's dead in a week. The medicine costs $1,200 a month. You got 40. I had two choices. Watch my boy die at the kitchen table because I couldn't afford a bottle of insulin, or walk into a drugstore with a knife and take it. Those were my two choices. Both of them. That's it. I picked the one where my son wakes up the next morning, and I've been in here 11 years for it. My name is Frank Bellini, Frank Joseph Bellini, 75 years old. I'm at Graterford, SCI Phoenix now. They renamed it. Don't ask me why. Same walls, same smell, same everything. The state of Pennsylvania says I committed robbery and aggravated assault. You know what I call it? Keeping my son alive. The judge gave me 12 years. 12 years for a bottle of insulin and $63 from a cash register. You do the math on that. Because I've been doing the math for 11 years and it still don't add up. Before all this, I was a baker, third generation. Bellini's Bakery, 9th and Mifflin. My grandfather opened that place in 1947. My father ran it till 81. I ran it from 81 till the night I threw it all away. And I'd throw it away again. You gotta understand what my life looked like before. I ain't telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you so you know what I had to lose. I was up at 3:30 every morning, 3:30, 7 days a week. Because bread don't bake itself and customers don't wait. I'd be in that kitchen with the flour up to my elbows before the sun even thought about coming up. My father did the same thing for 40 years. His father before him. That bakery was our name. Bellini, on the sign, on the awning, on every bag that went out the door. My wife, Rosa, God bless that woman, she did the books. Sat at the same desk my grandmother sat at, writing numbers in the same kind of ledger. We wasn't rich. Let me be clear about that. A bakery in South Philly don't make you rich. But we had a house. We had a life. We had a boy, Anthony Francis Bellini, named after my father. He was 8 years old and he was the best thing I ever made. Better than any bread, any pastry, anything that ever came out of that oven. And then he got sick. Type 1 diabetes. The doctor explained it to us like we should already know. Autoimmune. Pancreas don't work right. Needs insulin every day, every single day. Miss a dose and his blood sugar spikes. Miss a few and he's in the hospital. Miss enough and he's gone. Now we had insurance through the Bakery Association, small business group plan. It wasn't great, but it covered the insulin, covered the test strips, the needles, the doctor visits. We was managing. Anthony was doing good. He was playing baseball. He was making friends. He was eating cereal in the morning and running out the door with his backpack, and I actually thought we were gonna be okay. Then the association folded, just like that. The group plan fell apart because 3 bakeries on the same block closed in the same year. Not enough members. Premiums doubled, then tripled. Then the letter came. Coverage terminated. Effective the 1st of the month. That was door number 1 closing. I called every insurance company in the book. You know what insulin costs without insurance? $1,200 a month. I made maybe $2,200 after rent and utilities and flour and everything else. You tell me where $1,200 comes from when you got $400 left. So I went to the county, Medicaid, filled out the paperwork. Rosa and me sat in that office for 6 hours with Anthony doing homework in the waiting room. 3 weeks later, the letter came. Denied. You know why? We made $200 too much. $200. My bakery, the bakery that was barely keeping us alive, made us too rich for help. $200 between my son and a government that says it gives a damn about kids. That was door number 2. I went to the doctor, Dr. Abrams. Good man. I told him what happened. I said, Doc, I can't afford the insulin. Is there samples? Is there a program? Is there anything? He gave me 2 weeks of samples. Said that's all he had. Said he'd try to get more, but the pharmaceutical rep wasn't coming back till next month. 2 weeks. That's what I had. 14 days of my son being alive that I could guarantee. After that, nothing. That was the last door. I remember the exact moment I stopped looking for help, because there wasn't no help left to look for. 3 doors, all closed, and behind me, my kid eating Cheerios in a kitchen that smelled like fresh bread, not knowing he was running out of time. The samples ran out on a Thursday. I remember because Thursday was my long day at the bakery. We did the big orders for the weekend. I got home and Rosa was sitting at the kitchen table with the empty insulin pen in her hand, and her eyes were red, and she didn't say nothing. She just held it up, empty. I called Dr. Abrams, voicemail, called the pharmacy, $1,214. I had $43 in my wallet and maybe $100 in the checking account. I called Rosa's sister. I called my cousin Paulie. I called everybody I could think of. Nobody had that kind of money just sitting around. Not in our neighborhood, not in our world. That night I sat at the kitchen table after Anthony went to sleep. Rosa went to bed. I could hear her crying through the wall, and I sat there with a cup of coffee that went cold, and I looked at the ceiling, and I thought about every single option I had left. There was one. Now, I want you to understand something. I ain't never stolen nothing in my life. Not a pack of gum, not a dollar. My father would have broken my hands. I grew up believing you work for what you got and you don't take what ain't yours. That was the rule. And I believed it. I believed it right up until the moment it was going to kill my son. I sat there till 2 in the morning, and I looked at the knife block on the counter, and I looked at the refrigerator with Anthony's drawings on it, a house, a dog, a family, all in crayon. And I thought, what kind of father lets his child die because he can't afford medicine? I took a bread knife from my own bakery, a bread knife. You understand what I'm saying? I didn't even own a weapon. I took a knife made for cutting sourdough, and I put it in my jacket. The pharmacy was on Passyunk, 6 blocks from my house. I walked. Didn't drive because my hands were shaking too bad. The whole walk I was talking to myself saying, you don't got to do this. Turn around. There's got to be another way. But there wasn't another way. I'd tried every way, every single one. I walked in at 10 minutes to closing. One guy behind the counter, young kid, maybe 22, 23, had an Eagles jersey on under his smock. I remember that. I remember everything about that night like it happened this morning. I pulled the knife out and I said, I need insulin, Novolog Flex Pen, and whatever's in the register. My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was like somebody else was talking and I was watching from the back of my own head. The kid, his name was Danny, I found out later, he put his hands up. He opened the register, gave me the cash, $63. Then he went to the shelf and got the insulin, 2 boxes, handed them over, and it should have been over. I should have walked out. But Danny, the kid, he reached under the counter. I thought he was going for a gun or an alarm or something, and I grabbed his arm, and he pulled back, and I pushed him. I pushed him away from me. He fell backward, hit the back of his head on the edge of the counter, made a sound I can't describe that sound, like a watermelon on concrete. He went down, and he didn't move. I stood there, holding a bread knife in one hand and 2 boxes of insulin in the other. And a kid was on the floor bleeding from the back of his head, and I just stood there. I called 911 from the store phone. Didn't run, didn't hide. I sat on the floor next to Danny, and I held a towel on his head till the ambulance came. When the cops walked in, I still had the insulin in my jacket. Didn't throw it away, didn't try to lie. I said, my boy needs this to live. I'm sorry about the kid. Please call my wife. That was it. That's the whole robbery. You know what's funny? Not funny. I don't mean funny, but you know what gets me? The system that couldn't find $1,200 to keep my son alive worked real good when it came time to put me away. Real efficient, real fast. 12 years. For a bread knife and 2 boxes of insulin and $63. Danny, the kid, he got a concussion. Was in the hospital 2 days. 2 days. He's fine now. I heard he manages that same pharmacy. Good for him. I mean that. But 12 years. The judge said aggravated 'cause of the knife. Mandatory minimum. Didn't matter that I called 911 myself. Didn't matter that I sat with the kid till help came. Didn't matter why. Now let me tell you what 12 years costs. First thing you lose is the bakery. Rosa tried to run it alone. God love her, she tried. But she couldn't do the baking and the books and the counter and raise a diabetic 8-year-old by herself. Bellini's bakery closed 9 months after I came in here. 60 years, 3 generations, 9 months to die. My grandfather's ovens, my father's recipes, the dough hook my nonno brought from Napoli in a suitcase in 1946, all of it. Gone. Some chain store in there now. Smoothies or something. I don't want to know. Rosa held on for 3 years. Visited every Sunday. Brought pictures of Anthony. Told me how he was doing in school, what his numbers were. His blood sugar, I mean. She got him on a state program eventually. After I went in, she qualified for Medicaid. 'Cause now she was a single mother with no income. You hear that? After they took me away, my family was poor enough for help. Funny how that works. Rosa left after year 3. I don't blame her. I don't. She was 39 years old, raising a sick kid alone in a neighborhood where everybody knew her husband was in prison. She moved to Jersey, her mother's place. She sent me a letter that said she'd always loved me, but she couldn't wait. And I read that letter 14 times, and I folded it up, and I put it under my mattress, and it's still there. But Anthony, let me tell you about Anthony. My boy is 19 now. 19. I missed his first day of high school, missed him learning to drive, missed his voice changing, his first job, his first everything. I missed teaching him how to work the dough. You gotta feel when it's right. You can't learn that from a book. Somebody's gotta put their hands over yours and show you. Nobody showed him. He visits once a month, drives down from Jersey, sits across this table right where you're sitting. And he's a good kid, quiet, polite, looks just like I did at his age, except he's got Rosa's eyes. But here's the thing, he don't tell nobody about me. Rosa told me. She didn't want to, but I asked, and she don't lie to me. Anthony tells his friends his father passed away. That's the word he uses, passed away. Like I'm dead, like I'm in the ground somewhere. 'Cause it's easier to have a dead father than a father who robbed a pharmacy with a bread knife. I saved that boy's life. I held that insulin in my hands like it was holy water. I went to prison so he could wake up the next morning, and he tells people I'm dead. That's what they don't tell you about the gray line. The punishment from the judge, I can take that. The walls, the food, the years, I can take all of that. It's the punishment from the people you saved that breaks you. 'Cause the judge gives you a number, but your own kid gives you a grave. And you can't appeal that. People ask me, not a lot of people, but some. They ask me if I'd do it different. If I could go back to that kitchen table at 2 in the morning with the cold coffee and the crayon drawings on the fridge. And I gotta be honest with you, 'cause I'm sitting in this chair and I got nothing left to protect and nothing left to lose. So I might as well say what's true. I'd do it again. I'd walk them same 6 blocks. I'd take that same bread knife out of my jacket. I'd stand in front of that same kid behind the counter, and I'd hate myself for scaring him. And I'd do it anyway. Because the alternative was going home empty-handed and watching my boy go into a coma at the kitchen table. Now I ain't saying I did the right thing. I pushed a kid and he hit his head and he could have died, and that's on me. Danny didn't do nothing wrong. He was working a shift. He didn't make the insulin cost $1,200. He didn't cancel my insurance. He was just there. And I heard him, and I carry that. But if you're sitting there watching this, and maybe you got kids, maybe you don't, I want you to think about something. If it was your kid, your boy, your girl sitting at that table, and the medicine that keeps them alive costs more than you make in a month, and nobody will help you, nobody, what would you have done? Because I think you know exactly what you would have done, and I think the answer scares you a little, because it scared me too. I was a baker. I made bread, sourdough, ciabatta, focaccia, the rye my grandfather was famous for. I made things that fed people. That's all I ever wanted to do, feed people, take care of my family, run my father's shop, and the world turned me into a criminal because I couldn't afford to keep my son alive. I ain't angry. I was for a long time, but I ain't angry no more. I'm just tired, and I miss my boy. Not the boy who visits once a month and sits quiet and calls me dad like it's a word he's practicing. I miss the 8-year-old, the one who didn't know none of this was coming. The one with the crayon drawings and the Cheerios and the backpack. That's who I did it for. And that boy don't exist no more. But he's alive. He's alive and he's healthy and he's 19 years old. And some mornings, that's enough. Most mornings, it ain't. You know what I think about most? It ain't the pharmacy. It ain't the knife. It ain't the judge or the lawyers or any of that. I think about bread. I think about 4 in the morning, flour on my hands, the oven warming up, and my boy sleeping upstairs, safe. Because his father was downstairs making sure the world kept turning. I just want to make bread again. That's all. I just want to make bread and watch my son eat it.